Right, doing a bit of Dave exploring today. What a beautiful day to be out. What I'm looking for, down there I can hear it. There's a creek down there. However, a lot of trees down in there at the moment. So I've taken a high ground. I'm going to walk along here a little bit further and see if I can find what I'm looking for. What an amazing day. I can hear the water, but knowing where I am, I need to be a little bit further upstream from here. Right, let me get on and head up that way. Well, it just gets better and better. I just came down what can only be described as a very steep hill, nothing but mud. Got to the bottom and thought, hope that water's shallower than it looks. Well, it wasn't. So I had to wade along the shore a little bit. And I found a very conveniently placed tree and a nature's bridges. Nature always provides. All you have to do is look. Look at this, eh? Oh, there's a pile of firewood. Yeah. Natural fact. You know what? This is probably not a bad spot to spend the day. Need some rocks. The ground's fairly rocky, so won't have a problem with a campfire. I might head upstream just a little ways. I want to see what's the other side of that log jam up there. But to me, that is a whole pile of fresh cut firewood just waiting to have a campfire. I just need some rocks. And unfortunately the rocks on this side are all pretty wet, so I've got to climb down in there or climb over that lot to get them. So always make sure you have a safe campfire. I could have a campfire right there, that's not a problem. I've got plenty of water and plenty of ways of putting it out. But I'm just going to head upstream a little ways just to see what's the other side of that next tree jam up there. And I might come back to this spot. A lot of people come out to these places for the same reason I do. Just to kind of get away for a bit. There's my bridge. Oh, there's my bridge. Alright. Now if this is not a 6-lane highway fucking bridge, I don't know what is. Look at this. This is one seriously big tree. It makes some funny noises though, so if you suddenly see me drop 6 feet, you know it didn't work out so well. So I will leave their campsite alone. Oh, that's a good bridge, eh? That one's got no branches on it. Normally I have to cut all the bloody branches off trees to get across. I just crossed further downstream. Had I known that one was there, I would have carried on. However, right, I will press on upstream a little bit, find a quiet spot, and make my own site. Right, so we got the fire going. Now I scraped away the ground all the way down to the mud there. It's mud and gravel underneath here, so I'm not too worried. It's an old riverbed. That's why I've picked this location. Got a fire ring around it, just helps contain it a little bit. It stops it spreading into the ground. As always, I have a good water supply just over through those trees over there. Probably 50-60 feet. Oh, comes a goose. There he goes. Right, so my site for today is a remains of an old riverbed that's all grown up. You don't have to go down too far before you find gravel and stuff, so it's a good safe spot to have a campfire. As always, make sure you have plenty of water. I've got water there, I've got 2 lots of water there, and I can easily refill them just over there through those little trees just there. Literally 50-60 feet away I have a really good raging creek. It's probably about 3 feet deep, so not too worried about that. I'm going to keep the fire fairly small today anyway. I prefer, as always, I lit the fire with cotton balls. My preferred way of doing it. Works great. It's a really simple way of doing it. Can't get much easier than that, really. Can't light the fire with cotton balls, then you're really in trouble. But I built a little bed in the bottom there with just some very small sticks. It's surprising, this area is so ramshackled and tumbled down. You come and spend a day out here with a campfire, it's amazing. You clear up so many of these small sticks and what have you that are basically a fire hazard. You know, people say, oh well, you know, you're cutting up all this wood and, you know, burning all this and all the rest of it. But a lot of it does actually help reduce the fire risk on the ground by removing it in a controlled fashion. Same as these little trees. If you look at these trees, right, all of these little branches at the bottom, if a fire starts on the ground, these little branches enable it to run up this tree so fast. Literally, you couldn't move that bloody fast. It'll run up this tree so quick. So removing all these low branches on the ground is actually beneficial. It lets air through the forest. Once the cows and that are back in this area, trust me, you look at that, this all looks pretty dense. But you put 200 cows walking through here, all heading in the same direction, trust me, they clear it out of here pretty fast. Yes, they're good little bulldozers. Doesn't take them long to move stuff. Yeah. It's quite disturbing. You're out camping somewhere and suddenly you hear all this noise. You see these great big brown things coming through the forest there. Around here we have a lot of bears and cougars and wolves and coyotes and all kinds of stuff. I don't really worry too much about those. But cows, I don't know why. It's something to do with their digestion, but they really like charcoal. You see the charcoal that's left in the bottom of the fires and that. If you have a campfire somewhere and you come back a few days later after the cows have been through it, it is completely cleared out. All the carbon and everything's all gone, and it's something to do with their digestion. I don't know exactly what, but they really do like charcoal. So either way, I will keep an eye on this little fire, get it going a little bit, and then I'll get back here. Right, we've got it going a little bit better. I've got some bigger stuff on there just to warm it through. As always, make sure wherever you pick for a campsite that it has a really comfortable chair. It has to be exactly this height, which is about 16 inches. If you can find a log that's down, that's about 16 inches off the ground, absolutely perfect, exactly what you need. Right, now I've just chucked a bunch of small stuff on there. I put two larger pieces on there off of this one, and I've just put some smaller pieces on there, which is why it's flaring up at the moment, so you won't worry too much about that. Beautiful day for it. If you look at the forecast, it said it was going to rain today. However, it's not raining yet. However, I do have my weather gear with me and multiple bear sprays, although this is not particularly this particular area. The top of that hill over there, you're probably more likely to bump into bears, but down in here not so much, because it's a pretty difficult area to walk through. Trust me, it's very hard for humans. A bear sure as hell couldn't creep up on a deer in this, let me tell you. Not going to happen. Yeah. Deer can move through this forest so fast like it's not even here. Yeah. But a bear can't. Bear's like a little bulldozer. Apologies for the cough and what have you, but I'm still getting over this bug that I've had for the last couple of weeks. For whatever reason, it doesn't really want to clear up too much at the moment. But I find getting out in places like this, you know, there's this is my relaxation time. This gets me away from all the hassles of work and life and all that other garbage that we put up with all the time. And it doesn't get much better than this, eh? It really doesn't. That's better. That's dying down a bit now. The sun's coming up too. It's midday. Will be about over there. So once the sun gets to about there, I'll start running things down a little bit and make sure the fire's well and truly out and all that. Yeah. And it is supposed to rain like hell tonight and tomorrow, so that'll soak it all down. Right. that'll do for the moment. Let me just give you a look around this area. So this is what this whole area is like at the moment. Everywhere you look, we had a massive windstorm come through, so everywhere you look there's big trees like this. A lot of survival things. You'll see people say, oh yeah, you can use this as a shelter, and you know, because they picture that, and they picture, oh, yeah, I've already got one wall, you know, great, I've already got a wall, perfect, yeah, so how good could it be? And then you look over here and you're like, yeah, there's another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and so on. There's thousands of them all the way down through there. There's literally thousands and thousands of trees down in here like this. One of the problems with making a shelter like this, especially out here, is I can't see anything that way. So anything around here that's creeping up on you, and there are bears and cougars and coyotes and wolves and all kinds of stuff around here, so anything that's that way, you now can't see. You can see that way, some of that way, yeah. So is that a great spot for a campsite? Not really. I personally don't like spots like this because they sit damp in here. This the whole world. This is what I found on my rocks. They sit damp, and if you look up in the bottom of the tree, there's all kinds of rocks in there as well. You know, it's one of those falls on your head in the middle of the night. It's not going to be very pleasant. Yeah. So these things always look like a great idea, but aren't necessarily. But if you look at, geez, I'm just going to rip some of these out of here and show you. The on the bottom of these trees, right? This is obviously a very old pine that's fallen and whatever. But where the branches join, just gonna chuck those over there. Where the branches join, like these pieces, if you pull these out, this bit on the end here, everybody rushes off out and they go and buy all this fat wood and all this kind of good stuff because that's what it says in the bushcraft magazines that you should have. Yeah, you need some fat wood. Yeah, let's go buy fat wood. No. I have never in my life bought fat wood, and I never will, because if you look at the end of this branch where it's come out of the tree, where this tree died, all of the resin and what have you is in that end. Like this is just nice dry wood, this end, but this end, I guarantee you, is full of resin. I can actually see the different colour. You know, that branch that I just pulled off, see the different colour in the end. See, this is grey. This is a perfect piece of wood. Let me just get out the smoke there a little bit. Right, so this is grey on this end. This end's all grey. And then where my finger is, see that's pink? See that? That's where the resin is. So for lighting a fire, this one piece of wood, that one little branch, yeah, you can light an entire fire with that. Because this end, you just shave up, and that then becomes your fat wood for getting everything going. Lots of resin. And then the rest of the wood is so dry, it'll just take really easy. So these old logs that you see laying on the ground, you'll see that the trunk will disintegrate very, very quickly. But the branches, here's another one. Here's one that I haven't pulled off yet, right? So here's the trunk. It's all literally, look at this, just nothing, just mush. They can just crumble that up to nothing. The bears will come through here. This is why a lot of these trees get all chewed up, because the bears will come through here because they will find insects in here. But these branches, look at that, see? Look at that, that will burn really, really well. So you see all these little branches sticking off of these old logs and that? That is really good firewood, really, really good firewood. Talking of which, I should pay attention. I'm going to put a couple of those on there. Yes, I don't want this fire too big, so I'm not going to get it going crazy. I'm going to keep the logs fairly small. So, yep, perfect. So that is a really good source of firewood. Right, here's another one over here. This tree hasn't been down quite as long, I shouldn't think, but I don't know how easy. Oh, that one's in there. Right, there we go. Right, this piece that I've just pulled out of here, tree trunk, just pulled this piece out of here. These ends are absolutely amazing for firewood. The trunk itself will rot down very, very fast and feeds the forest floor, which is great because that's what we want. We don't want to remove all this material. We want it to break down, and you want it to turn into this. See this? This all breaks down into nothing. Look at that. Absolutely perfect. That will all break down. The fungi and everything will get into it, break it all up. Hey presto, new forest floor, forest flourishes. That's what we want. We want good, sustainable forests. Yeah, which is why it's very, very important to make sure you take care of your fires, because a fire will level a forest real fast. There's a saying, you know, one tree can make a million matches, but it only takes one match to destroy a forest. So always remember that. Right, I'm going to throw a few more twigs on here, get a bit more flame in here, get these bigger pieces going, and stop rabbiting and do some more in a bit. Now, one of the things you can do to keep a fire small, like I say, I don't want a small fire today. When you build a rock ring like this, what tends to happen is the fire will grow and grow and grow, and your embers and flames will be right up against the rocks here. I like to leave a gap all the way around if I'm just having a small fire, and one of the ways to achieve that is to basically break all your logs up, all your little branches, into maximum of 6-inch lengths. So if you, it's very tempting to like pile a big one on there, and just sort of spark jump out of that. So you'll keep an eye on that. This is why you never ever walk away from a fire. Like, I'll go 10-15 feet away from a fire, but I can always see it, because there we go. Right, perfect example. Little ember just jumped out of that fire. Get back in there. Yeah, just jumped out of that fire onto this dry material. Now this dry material, okay, you'd have to have a good breeze come through and all that kind of good stuff. However, that is how campfires start forest fires. Because people look at it, they think, oh yeah, it's in a ring like that, there's no way it can cause any problems. But it can, because all it takes is for a spark to jump out of there that you can't see, decent sized ember, sit in some of this dry material. Let's face it, some of this around here is fairly dry material. It only have to sit there and smoulder, and then if you just happen to walk away, hey presto, you got a forest fire. And we've had some pretty big forest fires around here. Last year there was it last year? No, year before. There was a very big one up around the back of the Ghost region there. Some people had been up camping, they left their fire, they assumed it was out because it was in a rock ring, quote, yeah. So they left it, and it burned out, and it looked like it was out. But the golden rule is to soak it right down. Make sure it's completely out. Well, if I was to walk away from this fire now, I know that in about 15 minutes time there'd be no wood left in there to burn, and in about an hour's time it would be nothing but embers. However, if the wind suddenly gets up, all those embers can blow out of there very, very quickly. So all this stuff over here, if they happen to blow that way, hey presto, forest fire. So I like to soak it down, stir it all up, soak it down, and then I'll wait. And if my golden rule is, if I can't put my hand in it, it's not out. And I also walk up and down on them once they're out. That does two things. A, if you're willing to walk up and down on a fire, you know it's out because you're not going to destroy your boots. And that crushes it all down, all the carbon and everything crushes right down. So when it rains, it gets into the soil really nicely. And it sounds daft, but that helps the trees. Like, we have a nice little tree growing here. This tree here is probably only a foot tall, but around here trees only grow about a foot a year. So that's probably last year's tree or whatever. And it can take a year or two for them to germinate in the ground. But if you look in amongst all this other stuff, there's lots of new trees growing. There's some bigger ones behind me, they're probably 8 feet tall. Yeah. But that's how the forest, that's the natural progression of forest. All the trees, these old ones fall down, they rot away, they break down, they provide the food for everything else. Now I did happen to notice underneath this great big tree here, there was a piece of a stump right in there. Like, if you look at that stump, you know, that's carbon. This is evidence of a forest fire. There's a piece of a tree that was growing here right next to this one a very long time ago, but look at it. So at some stage there was a big forest fire came through here. That's a decent sized tree, or was. That tree was probably about 2 foot round, 18 inches, 2 foot round. I can see the rest of it under there, but that's all that remains of it. Yeah. And the chances are the reason that that piece has remained is because it's charred. It helps protect the wood. One of the things we used to do when we was doing fence posts and stuff like that, you'd take the end of the fence posts, stick them in the fire, hard them up, but it also prevents a lot of the rot. So when you bang them in the ground, they don't rot as much. So we used to just put the ends in the fire, get them a little charcoaly, and then bang them in the ground. Hey presto, they last longer. Yeah. Not many people do that nowadays. They all dip stuff in chemicals and that'll prevent it rotting. Yeah, well, trust me, put it in the end of a fire and charcoal the end a little bit, just burn it up a little touch, and that'll last a long time too. Yes, this is a good bit of forest. This is a nursery forest, really, because this wouldn't be much good for timber down in here, because you'd have real trouble getting anything in here to process the wood. And half the wood in here is, it's all split and broken and half dead and what have you. So it's important to leave areas like this, right alongside the rivers and that. It's great for wildlife, and also insects and plant diversity and what have you, all the way down through here. It's really good. Yeah. Right. See, I'm letting it die right down again before I put any more on there, and then I'll put some more on. Right. Do some more in a bit. So that's how fire should be left. I literally let it burn down to nothing, soaked it right down, stomped it all into nothing but ash. There's literally nothing but ash in there. So it's actually a soup in there at the moment with carbon and water. Pile all the rocks on top so that nothing else can blow around. It's been about an hour now since that's been out, and there's not a wisp of steam or anything off of anything. And it is still soaked in there. I can still see it's like a sloppy mess of carbon and water. It's supposed to rain pretty good later today. Tonight it's supposed to actually really chuck it down, so not too worried about that. That'll help wash all the carbon into the soil, make sure there's nothing else left behind. I will clear up all my junk here in a mo and head out. Right, that's a good spot. Right, just heading out, just make sure nothing's left behind. Me being paranoid, I've just dumped the last of my water bottle on there. I just put another litre of water on there. Yeah, fire's been out for an hour now, so not too worried about that. It's all on gravel. Right, temperature's dropped. I've noticed the temperature's dropped. It's supposed to go back down to freezing this afternoon, and we're supposed to get rain and or flurries overnight, so whatever. Time for me to head out. That's how you want to leave a campfire. Nice and neat and tidy. Other than a pile of rocks, you never know when I've been here. Yeah. Right. I'm heading that way. Right. Time to stop at a little spot just to sit and listen to the river for a while. That's a good easy river crossing right there. Look. Nice pile of rocks. Go across. One bit in the middle there, you'd probably have to jump the gap, but other than that, it wouldn't take much to get across there. If that's not a good sound, I don't know what it is. Go down there a bit. Now cool. I suspect it's very cool, but it's probably very cold water. A good creek. So these trees washed up here. This is all from the floods of 2013. It shows you how much water comes through here. Just pushes all these logs and that up in here like they're just matchsticks. Absolutely like matchsticks. Right, I'm going to head on back down the trail, head on down that way. Well, it's nice when you find tree trunks like that. That is pretty cool, I have to admit. That was a very cool picture right there. Oh yeah. Nice creek flowing through here. Doing a U-turn around the corner. So, right. How odd's that? Over it now. There we go. A little soft down in this piece. Very nice. It makes the whole day worthwhile when you come out to places like this. You just see an old tree stump. Sounds stupid, but just an old tree stump can make a difference the whole day. The rest of my trail is looking a bit of a mess. However, I'm clearing it up one little bit at a time. Can't all be done at once. Alright, on I go.